I can't tell you what a pleasure it is. Of course, it's a great pleasure to have all of our guests here, but Kazu and I have a personal connection. We work together, and he's a graduate of our program. So it's just wonderful to welcome him back. And he's going to tell us about Indian Ocean issues. I'm so glad that he's bringing up Yemen, because Yemen is actually a very hot area with a lot of geopolitical implications. It strides the Straits of Mandeb. We heard about Hormuz, but Mandeb is also important. And yet, in the American press and general public consciousness, the fact that there's a major war going on there is kind of elided. And it does have implications for all maritime states who do a lot of maritime commerce. So obviously, this is something that's concerning to Japan, and Kazu is going to tell us about it. Please.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this small but distinguished symposium. I used to study in Islamic history at the Department of Near Eastern Studies in this university, and the Professor Cole was one of my advisors. So I'm very happy to come to Ann Arbor again, so after so many years. And also I'd like to thank Professor Alexander Knish for coming to my presentation. I also would like to thank Elizabeth for arranging this conference and my trip to Ann Arbor also. And I would like to apologize to Professor Cole, because there is not so much about the Indian Ocean today in today's presentation. I am concentrating on what is going on in Yemen and what Japan can do for the current situation and in the future. Well, it is a difficult task because I'm specializing in the history of Hadramawt, an eastern region in today's Republic of Yemen, and the migration of the people from the region in the Indian Ocean. And what I'm doing right now is to have interviews with the expatriates in Indonesia and also in Abu Dhabi, and not in Yemen itself. So I do not dare to say that I am informed about the political issues of the Republic in general. Hadramawt is a part of the Republic, but historically speaking, the region is a bit different from the mountainous part of the state or the center of the current problem. It partially explains why there are separatist movements in the former South. I am not a separatist myself, but I believe those who see the ongoing process from the viewpoint of the mountainous Yemen only need to know about the former South too. Okay. Oh, sorry. I should have, projected this one before. Yeah, my specialty is the history of Hadramawt, and you know how to spell out Hadramawt. Okay. The country I am going to discuss is the Republic of Yemen. It is formed after the unity in 1990 between Yemen Arab Republic, or North Yemen, and the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen, or South Yemen. The projected population is around 25 million. The area of the country is 1.5 times as big as Japan, and the people are mostly Arabs, with Islam as the overwhelming majority is a religion. 2/3 of the Muslims are Sunnis, and other third Shi'is. The country is in densely populated part of the Arabian Peninsula, with mountains, relatively high precipitation in some places, and cultivation. Gross national income per capita is $1,370. It is one of the poorest countries in the world. It is this high population and poor condition of the people that makes its neighbor, Saudi Arabia, concerned about the political situation of the country. It does produce oil, but the production is not enough for the whole population to have decent life. human development is a concern for the country. Literacy rate is 80% for male, and female is 40%, according to the statistics given by the government. Only 10% of the population have received university or above level education. Considering that the university education in Yemen has been impeded in these 4 years due to the unrest in strong. Although the number of such students does not exceed 2,000, students who complete the course go back to home countries like Indonesia and become teachers at Islamic schools. Thus, studying in Yemen means something for all those students. And this is a map of Yemen and the surrounding countries. As you can see, the country faces both the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. So ships that go through the Suez Canal have to pass this region, and around 17,000 ships actually do that every year. Among those, ships related to Japan account 1,700, or 10%. To thrive in the maritime trade. However, the recent political turmoil does not allow Yemenis to have safe and stable social life. And there seems no sign of improvement for the near future. At least 6 parties are fighting either for or against other groups. They are 1. Houthis, the group of Zaidi Shia originating from the northern part of the country. And it is said that they are backed by Iran. 2. The military unit loyal to the former president Ali Abdullah Saleh, who resigned in February 2012, yet still has power and is said to have cooperated with the Houthis, the former enemy. 3. The current president Abdul Rabbuh Mansour Hadi, who is the legitimate leader of the state, but does not have enough power to settle the problem. 4. Saudi-led coalition that fight against the Houthis. It gives the internal problem of the Republic of Yemen a dimension of a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. 5. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula that is active mainly in the south. After the problem in Sana'a, the capital city created a power vacuum in the country. 6. Drones controlled from somewhere in this country and intended to kill the members of Al-Qaeda of Arabian Peninsula. But there is a criticism for killing civilians too. The former president of the Republic, Ali Abdullah Saleh, resigned in February 2012 after the reign of 33 years. He did so according to the transition agreement brokered by the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC. It was considered one of the accomplishments of the Arab Spring and the dawn of a new era. But it was not. There are so many factions with military power and different opinions on what the state should be, and the formation of new government and constitution progressed very slowly. After August 2014, the Houthis became active. It is said that the former president of the Republic of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, who still tries to regain power, sides with the Shi'i faction from the north, as I said. In January 2015, they seized the capital city of Sana'a, and the current president, al-Hadi, fled to Aden in February and to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in the next month. He is still based in Saudi Arabia, from which he visits Aden occasionally and most probably without advance notice. In September 2015, he returned to Aden for the first time, and again in this month, November. It is very sad to say, but he is now serving as the part-time president of the Republic of Yemen, who navigates the state from Saudi Arabia. In the process, 2,204 people was killed and other 4,711 wounded, according to the UN. And UN issued a statement on the situation of Yemen in September 2015 and openly criticized the international community's virtual silence on civilian casualties. Also, it is said that 1.2 million people are displaced within the country. Okay, it is necessary to mention the situation of Hadramawt. Basically, it is far from the troubled area such as the capital city Sana'a, Aden, and Taiz. However, there were security problems even before 2011 or the Arab Spring. In 2009, there was a bombing in Shibam in Hadramawt, or Manhattan of the desert, and some Korean tourists were killed. The targets of terrorist attack were not confined to foreigners, as there were murder attempts of dignitaries in Hadramawt, such as vice governor. In June 2014, Al-Qaeda of Arabian Peninsula attacked the airport of the inland city of Sayyun and killed 11 people. In April this year, AQAP seized Al-Mukalla, the capital city of the Hadramawt Governorate. The United States used drone to attack its members and resulted in civilian casualties. As the western part of the Republic of Yemen became more dangerous, the Indonesian government asked all nationals to evacuate from the country, and most of them did by March 2015. As a result, almost all foreign students from Southeast Asia disappeared from the street of cities in Hadramawt. And the counterparts of the religious schools in Indonesia that used to send students to Yemen stopped sending new ones. Now Hadramawt cannot provide education to them. But despite this incident, Hadramawt is a region relatively safe if compared to other parts of the country, and it shows how serious the condition of the country is right now. Well, this is the enlarged map of the Republic of Yemen. I got it from a national online project, which is on the internet. Hadramawt is the area covered by green oval in this map. And the place is relatively safe, as I said, if compared to the area covered by the red oval in the western side of the country, where the majority of conflicts between the Houthis and the current government occur. Now let me talk about the relationship between Yemen and Japan. The relationship between the two countries is not close in any respect. The coverage of the country in newspapers is not much as far as the printed edition is concerned. They pass along the facts such as the protest by university students in Sana'a killing of people by drone, the movement of president and political factions, bombing by Saudi Arabia, and other politically related matters. But other than that, they say almost nothing on the country. In other words, there is no discussion on what Japan can and should do for the current problem. But the digital edition of the Asahi, I found a series of articles by Mitsunori Namba, who was the Japanese ambassador to Yemen from 2010 to 12. The writings are a very honest account of what he observed when he was in Yemen and outside. So I will introduce some of his writings and feelings later in this presentation. Well, another thing worth mentioning is oil. Yemen does produce oil, but its amount of production and that of Japan's import is negligible. The oil from Yemen accounts for less than 1% of total import of oil to Japan. Oil from Iraq is not much these days, but Iraq has more potential to be a major oil exporter for Japan once the situation improves. Well, I had a chance to talk to a person who is trading natural gas at one of major Japanese trading company, and he informed me that Japan does not care the oil of Yemen anymore. Another thing, the Japanese are maybe care maybe Yemen as a tourism destination. It is sure that the old city of Sana'a, or ruins of Ma'arib, Shibam, the Manhattan of desert, and other places will attract tourists. But this chart shows the number of Japanese tourists to Yemen. You can see the number does not exceed 2,500 even in the peak year of 2006, and it dropped significantly after that. However, in 2006, Yemen had tourist potential for the Japanese, and they did come to Yemen. When I was working on historical manuscript at the Al-Ahqaf Library in Hadramawt in 2006, a group of Japanese tourists in the 60s and 70s suddenly visited the place. So I was very surprised to see Japanese seniors came all the way to Hadramawt. But they were more surprised to see a Japanese doing research there. Since I belong to the generation of their children or grandchildren, the encounter ended with the shower of Japanese sweets they brought on me. However, the security issue became more and more serious after that. So in 2013, only 178 Japanese tourists visited Yemen. In the history also, the relationship between Yemen and Japan is not so close. There is a record in the late 19th century. Some Japanese naval ships called at Aden before passing through the Bab el-Mandeb. After that, many ships must have called at the natural port. Another thing is that in 1938, the son of Imam of Yemen, Hussein bin Yahya, paid an official visit to Japan. He attended the opening ceremony of Tokyo Mosque and had an audience with the emperor. It is relatively well documented and covered by newspapers at that time. However, in my opinion, the biggest contact between the people from today's Republic of Yemen and the Japanese was in Southeast Asia before the World War II. A large number of people from Hadramawt migrated to today's Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia after the 19th century. The Japanese did basically the same thing, and that both resided as neighbors in the major cities such as Penang, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, Batavia, and Surabaya. Arab seniors in Southeast Asia I interviewed sometimes talk about their friendship with the Japanese who run small shops in those places. An Arab woman I met in Singapore told me that her grandfather could write Chinese character because his mother was a Japanese. During World War II, most of Southeast Asia came under the Japanese military administration. That means that the Japanese had to deal with more than 100,000 Arabs who had some influence on the indigenous population. Some Hadrami Arabs were imprisoned for suspicion of collaborating with the British. However, many Hadramis Arabs were, many Hadramis, as far as I know, were in good terms with the Japanese. A Hadrami Arab I met in Indonesia, who was more than 80 years old, said to me that the Japanese military officer who came to his town, Sukabumi, was actually the former neighbor of his family who ran a small shop. Just before the war, that Japanese disappeared and came back in military uniform. So my informant said that he was, after all, a Japanese spy. I have another explanation of this matter, but it was out of the scope of this presentation. In any case, Southeast Asia was a place where the encounter between the Arabs and the Japanese was the largest in scale. And it is sad that not many people know about that, partly because I am lazy to write about it. And also the Japanese at the time recognized the Hadramis just an Arab neighbors. I mean, not Hadrami or Yemenis. But other than that, Yemen has been a remote place for the Japanese, and even until now. The recognition of Yemen by the Japanese government now may not be so different from this general feeling, and it considers that the country is in need of assistance. The report of Official Development Assistance in 2012 says that the growth rate of gross domestic product in 2011 is estimated to have been minus 11%, and the estimated loss was $3 to $4 billion. I believe that the situation must have worsened since then. Also, that report says, Yemen is located in a strategically important place that faces international sea route, which many ships related to Japan pass through. The country is thus very important for the safety of the route. Also, the stability of the country is important for that of the Gulf region on which Japan depended for securing energy. This opinion means that Japan does not need anything from the country, and the only stability of the place serves well for Japan. So, looking at cynically, except for exercising duty as a developed country, Japan does not need to clear Yemen as long as it does not cause any problem. If it is actually the case, Japan's recognition of Yemen is probably the same as the British before the 1970s. For the British, who controlled Aden and Hadramawt, the security of the port of Aden was the most important thing related to South Arabia. And Yemen and Hadramawt were hinterland whose political stability was essential for the security of Aden. Thus, they tried to control Hadramawt through the two local sultanates and carefully monitor the situation of Yemen, to which the British could not extend its power. Probably, it explains why the United Nations criticized the international community for the virtual silence on the current issues of Yemen. Yemen is, after all, a forgotten country. Although it sounds somewhat negative, I think it may work well for Japan and maybe for other countries. Well, Japan has almost no concession within Yemen, and if we do something to the country, it can be purely for the development of the country. Thus, basic policy for economic assistance to Yemen consists of humanitarian aid, human development, assistance for democratization, support for farming, and other assistance that meets the basic needs of the country. And this chart shows the amount of economic aid from Japan to Yemen. The blue ribbon represents grant aid, and orange ones loan aid. As you can see, the amount of aid from 1969 to the mid-70s is almost negligible. From the latter half of the 70s, the amount gradually rose and saw its peak in 1991 when the amount of aid reached 100 million US dollars. After that, the amount of aid is between 10 and 40 millions US dollars in most cases. Another characteristic I can point out is that until the mid-1990s, there were loan aid for from Japan. However, after that, the amount became minus. This means that Japan provided debt relief in that year, and the net amount Japan disbursed as loan aid became minus. The breakdown of aid is what I already mentioned, like humanitarian support. But recent years see emergency food aid, emergency grant aid to support election, and that of internally displaced people and the like. The assistance from Japan is to meet urgent need rather than develop the country from a long-term perspective. Okay, one of the schemes of financial assistance that Japan has been putting emphasis on is the grant assistance for grassroots human security project, GGP. It is an assistance for local level project with an amount of each project not exceeding 82,000 US dollars or 10 million Japanese yen. A local Japanese embassy or consulate in each country virtually has the power to decide which project to assist. And each organization that seeks for assistance needs to convince the embassy that it is capable of running the project. The scheme is meant to help the local community directly and proved to be an assistance visible from the people. This chart shows the counterparts of GGP project in Yemen from 2000 to 2014. This figure is based on the data on the exchange of notes. The three most important counterparts for Japan are local NGOs, local governments, and medical organizations. On the other hand, organization of central government and international NGOs, in other words, those that most probably have a connection to upper strata or source of fund outside Yemen, are out of scope for this scheme. And this chart shows the types of the project. 63 or 38% of the project are for improving environmental health, such as development of water supply system. Other than environment, education and health are two types that the Japanese government focuses. These include the construction, renovation, and expansion of school buildings and hospitals, and providing medical equipment. This is the amount of grant assistance for grassroots human security project, GGP, according to governorates in Yemen. As you may notice, Sana'a, the capital city of Yemen, is the place where the amount of GGP provided is the highest. The other places to which large amount of GGP is granted, such as Taiz and Ib, are major cities in the mountainous area of the country. After these two places, Sana'a Governorate, Hadramawt, Al-Hodeidah, and Aden also receive a relatively large amount of GGP. Although there is a huge difference between governorate in terms of the amount of GGP granted, one may also notice that no governorate, except for Reima, failed to obtain assistance through this scheme. The previous chart indicates the fact that the governorate with major cities tend to receive larger amount of GGP. However, if you turn to GGP amount per capita of each governorate, the things look clearer. This chart shows the amount of GGP divided by the estimated population of each governorate in Yemen in 2013. No governorate or city receive more than 100 yen or 80 cents per capita, except for Al-Mahra and Skotra, two of the most remote governorate from the capital city. The most important characteristic we can learn from this chart is that Japan's financial support reaches almost every governorate. I think the Japanese government carefully distribute the grant assistance evenly among the places in Yemen. And it also means that the GPP does not have political intention or not based on any special connection with particular politicians in the capital. Although the amount of grant aid disbursed for this scheme is very small, it is really an effective way to help the people while making the presence of Japan in the country recognizable. Okay, let me briefly mention Japan's policy towards a problem of Somali pirates or part of the Indian Ocean. It sounds like that the problems occur off the coast of Somalia, but it is actually off the coast of Yemen too, as you can see the map that I borrowed from the report by the Japanese government. So although it is called Somalian pirates, then their place of activity is between Somalia and Yemen. Although Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force dispatched naval vessels for anti-pirates measures in the region, they are based in Djibouti and no direct connection with Yemen. Although the strategic zone is just off the coast. Well, it seems that anti-piracy measures are implemented by the Japanese government independently from its policy toward Yemen itself. But this chart is the number of piracy incidents in the Gulf of Aden and other places. You can see the sharp decline in the number of the Somalian coast. The reasons for the decline are considered to be joint anti-piracy measures. Also, formation of a national unity government in Somalia in 2012 may contribute to the decline. The Japanese government, however, is not optimistic. Japan observes that the underlying causes of piracy remain in place, and the current decline is inherently reversible. But I do not have more to say about the pirates of the Gulf of Aden. So let me proceed to the next topic. What can Japan do? Now let me talk about what Japan can do in the current situation. Politically speaking, Japan is not ready to do something, partly because it is not a permanent member of the UN Security Council that can put pressure on the country politically. It may have made some diplomat and politician disappointed. An inner conflict of a diplomat is well expressed in the series of articles written by Mitsunori Namba, the Japanese ambassador to Yemen from 2010 to 2012, in the digital edition of the Asahi, one of the major newspapers in Japan. The series is titled Arab Spring and Yemen. The articles cover what the ambassador Namba looked, heard, did, and how he feels after the Arab Spring. He was very disappointed by the fact that Japan is one of the first countries, if not the first, that closed an embassy in Sana'a after the Arab Spring turmoil in Yemen on March 16th, 2011. The security situation of the capital city was not so tense at that time, and Namba did not feel any urgency to leave Yemen. He was also concerned with the pride and dignity of Japan in the international community. However, the Japanese government was afraid of the closure of Sana'a International Airport. That is virtually the only way to get out of the country. And if commercial airplane no longer comes to Sana'a, Japan cannot dispatch a military aircraft to rescue its own citizens, like other countries. At that time, the number of Japanese who stayed in Sana'a was as many as 59, and most of them agreed to exit the country. The embassy was reopened in December in the same year, but was closed again in February 2015, almost at the same time as US and UK embassies were closed. Ambassador Namba watched on TV in the ambassador's residence in Sana'a the signing ceremony of transition agreement brokered by the Gulf Cooperation Council, according to which President Saleh resigned on some conditions. He did not attend the ceremony because it was held in Riyadh. But even if it was held in Sana'a and he was invited, he would have mixed feeling because Japan did virtually nothing in the process. On the other hand, he realized that what Yemen expected from Japan was economic and technical aid, and Namba thinks it would be the field Japan can contribute. It is necessary to say that Japan did not neglect its duty. For example, the representative of Japan attend the Friends of Yemen ministerial meetings that was held in Riyadh, New York, London, and promised the assistance to the country. But it seems that Japan has not shown its presence by promising something unique. The problem is Japan cannot do anything in Yemen unless the security situation is improved. The Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, closed its office in 2011. What it is doing now is to invite Yemeni government officials and others to Japan and give training and collect information on the country. Well, it may be only way to contribute to the development of the country right now. But I believe that another kind of assistance Japan has not done but can provide with Yemen is higher education. Japan does help facilitating primary education, including women's one. However, the rate of university graduate in Yemen is around 10%, and the situation will become worse due to the current turmoil. It is easily expected that Yemen will be in need of technocrats with university-level education. Since the Yemen is not accessible, the way of giving higher education is to invite promising young students to Japan, presumably those who can speak Japanese or English, give scholarship, and send them back with degrees. It will work very well for Japan because no matter which faction win the current struggle for power, and no matter the country can keep its unity, when the dust settles, those people will be needed in both public and private sectors. It will be the best way to have strong human connection with Yemen. Also, I suggest that when the situation settles, Japan sends specialists and extend financial support in order to establish the Department of Administration in universities in Yemen. Okay, let me speak something about the problem of the South. One thing I can point out here is that many people see the current situation from the capital city of Sana'a, and not from the south. The former ambassador number listed the problem of the separatist movement of the south as one of the obstructive factor for the settlement of the problem. But he confesses that he knows about nothing. He knows almost nothing about the problem, and it is a very complicated matter. I myself have been working on the history of Hadramawt and talked to the people on the issue. Many people in the south, especially Hadramawt, recognized the times after the unification in 1990 have been, after all, those of colonization by the North, and they don't like it, of course. The fact that most oil reserves are in the former South made people questioning the legitimacy of the control of the region from Sana'a. Usually, this anti-North feeling is not demonstrated physically, and therefore it is not so visible from Sana'a, the capital city. But there must be quite a lot of people who think that the split, in one way or another, something like a federation, is inevitable in the course of time. So I understand that it is quite difficult to address the issue of the South. Those who represent states, such as ambassadors, that have a diplomatic relationship with the Republic, cannot say anything about the possible split of an internationally recognized nation. But one should keep that possibility in mind at least. Also, Japan should be aware of the existence of large number of Yemenis, including Hadramis outside Yemen. In Saudi Arabia, for example, there are conglomerates founded by expatriates from Hadramawt, like Bin Laden's and Bukshan's. Abu Dhabi has a large Hadrami community whose members get together in various occasions and exchange information with each other and with their relatives and friends back in Hadramawt. Prominent religious figures from Hadramawt are still visiting Southeast Asia for the purpose of da'wah or call for Islam. I know that they are very political, because they always say that they don't want to be involved in any politics. In order not to be involved in politics, one has to know very well about what is going on in that field. Probably they are carefully watching the current situation and see what the situation will be when the dust settles. Also, they are watching which country did what in the process. So financially speaking, they are powerful and always assist their fellow countrymen by building and renovating mosques, schools, and other infrastructure. And Japan may join them. Okay, let me sum up my presentation. Japan is in a unique position when assistance for Yemen is concerned because it is free from historical and political constraints with the country. And Japan's image in Yemen consists of high-quality cars, advanced technology, and financial assistance to not only the central government, but also grassroots projects in various places in the country. If one of the purposes of Japan is to play a role in the development of the region, the GPP scheme and other kinds of assistance purely for the development of the country is an ideal measure because it will transcend various factions. However, the proposition for that measure is political stability of the country. For the time being, what Japan can do is to assist the country from outside. I mean, inviting people and contacting expatriates in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and United States, and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much. So if there is any question, please raise hand. No question at all. Okay. Yeah. Please. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Thank you for great presentation, Professor Arai. I am an MBA student, so I'm very interested in business in Yemen. So you said that Yemen expects for Japan the cooperation, investment, and technology. So what business opportunity exists in Yemen?
Well, I think there is very few opportunities existing in Yemen. It is why the Japan, the main bodies of the relationship between Japan and Yemen is an economic assistance from Japan. But there is some concessions there. During the time of South Yemen, I mean before the 1990s, the Japanese fishing company, Nichiro, made a contract with South Yemen, and they had an office, I think. Yeah. But nowadays, I don't think Nichiro is still doing that. Well, and other thing is oil, but the production of oil, the amount of production of oil from Yemen is very small. And considering the current situation of Yemen, I mean, it is very dangerous. So I don't think, if you consider the cost and the benefit, Yemen is not the good option. Other thing, I don't know, but well, of course, there are a lot of Japanese cars there, and also the agent of Toyota and other companies are there. But I found out that most of the Japanese car which are used in Yemen are used cars from Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi and other places in the UAE. So I don't know, to what extent it will profit. It will make profit. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know, much about the business of Japanese company in Yemen.
Thank you.
Is there any possibility for Japan to play any kind of mediating role? Because it has good relations with Iran, but also good relations with UAE and Saudi Arabia. And if they're fighting a proxy war, they need somebody that they both trust to come to some settlement. So is there any diplomatic role that Japan could play here?
I see. Well, of course, it is one possibility, but well, you need to know very well about the situation and which faction is thinking what. And one of the weaknesses of the foreign ministry in Japan is, information gathering, and their shortage, severe shortage of personnel who is capable of doing that. So yes, of course, Japan has a good relationship with Iran and UAE and Yemen also, but well, we need to develop some, people just for that purpose. But I think it's very good possibilities. Thank you.
What does the Japanese public think about the relationship with Yemen? Is there any pressure to get involved or to stay out? Or, maybe Japan is in an ideal position where they do exactly like you say, they get goodwill and they don't get any bad publicity?
Well, the problem is that Japanese, the public or the Japanese don't care about Yemen at all. I mean, they don't know what Yemen is, and I don't think that the majority of Japanese knows where Yemen is. Yes, but there are articles criticizing the killing of civilians by drone and other kind of the war-like situation. So some people knows about that, but there is no coherent opinion among the people about what should be done for the Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. It's really a wonderful one. And my question concerned about the Hadramis. And when you mentioned the relationship between Japan and Yemen, you particularly mentioned about Hadrami and the role of Hadrami people in this relationship. My question is why Hadrami people is important? And is it because they diasporas throughout the world, or they have special tie with Japanese in history, or any special relationship that Hadrami people could play a role in this relationship?
I see. The importance of Hadramis in the regions around the Indian Ocean is human connection, and the human connection in that region is still in operation, and they can be a middleman between the countries. For example, in Indonesia, usually if the new cabinet is formed, there are some Hadrami ministers in the new cabinet. For example, the foreign minister for Indonesia in the 1990s was Ali Alatas, whose family originated from Hadramawt. And after that, Alwi Shihab, also Hadramis. And in Malaysia, Hamid Albar, also Hadramis. And there are such cases in here and there in Southeast Asia. And some of the Arab Singaporeans were appointed as the head of the office of Singapore Airlines in Cairo. So if by using their Arabness and their ability of Arabic language, and also the connection in the other parts of the world, maybe it is very good for the the government and the societies of in the Southeast Asian countries. And also, if there is something in Hadramawt, I mean, the expatriates from Hadramawt are more powerful than those in Hadramawt in terms of economics. So if there is something, you can contact the powerful Hadrami outside of Hadramawt in order to solve the problem. And I'm very interested in that kind of relationship. Yeah. But it is not governmental relationship. It is very informal, but it's powerful connection of human beings, powerful connection of the people, not so famous among the the general public, but it still exists. Yeah.